Hello to my air signs Libra, Aquarius and Gemini. Welcome to the Leo full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Libra Rising, happy Leo full moon. It's happening on January the 26th at 4:54 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So I think that's going to be full and brightest right before moonset, just right before sunrise. Maybe you can get up really early and enjoy that handover. It's okay if you can't be bothered though. You can all night. The moon on the 25th will be really beautiful and bright and bold. So if you wanted to have your moment with the moon, you can do it then too. But I want you to sort of think about the idea of Leo, what that represents for you and for all of us. Wash my hair especially. It needs a cut. It's a brush fire. But there is something kind of bombastic about Leo, isn't there? If Aries is cardinal fire, which is like a match, Leo is fixed fire, which is like a bonfire. And then Sagittarius, the beautiful altar of candles and mutable fire. But we're bonfiring it right now. We're spotlighting. And with the sun opposing the moon, shining all of its light on the moon, it does feel really theatrical. It feels really big. It feels really bright. For you, Libra Rising, this is your 11th house. This is your sense of the human condition. This is your sense of humanity, where you belong in friendship, but where you feel that you belong in the species too. I think that this is a really nice moment for you, Libra Rising, is to sort of think about everything that's occupying your mind right now about those topics, about humanity, and perhaps people's lack of humanity might be something that crops up for you. But when looking at your birth chart, Leo in the 11th house has me think about some sort of like team leader. I really do feel that for you, Libra Rising. There's something about the confidence of your convictions that you hold, that you're sort of speaking in chorus with others. You're sort of speaking and acting and moving and creating space for folks to feel their truest essence, to feel their confidence coming from inside of themselves. I believe that about Leo very strongly, is that they're doing it on behalf of everyone. Their vivacity, their drama, their love of the gorgeousness of life, it's all coming from their heart. Leo rules the heart chakra, that green space right here, the chest. I always think of a pride of lions too, that lovely word pride, and the image of a pride of lions, but how they're all rolling together as well. Lions don't really do so well by themselves. They love to roll in a pride, in a pack. And I think that you can probably say the same as well, Libra Rising. Obviously, there's something so stimulating for you about harmony, about balance, about sort of right relationship and equity and fairness. And the bonfire of you is really focused on everyone. I love to imagine all of my Libra Rising friends sort of moving around a party and making sure everyone's got a drink and this person knows that person and everyone gets together and has a beautiful time. Got a great memory for what turns people on and what lights them up as well. Such a strong interest in the well-being of other people, and indeed a sense of humanity, a sense of love and hope for humankind. We've got such a captivating year in the astrology that we're moving towards, and there is going to be some really, really pressurized spots here for everyone. So we need to keep your home fires burning. We need to keep your light shining, Libra Rising. So this full moon is going to be a great time, I would suspect, for you to be around those that you love. It would be really lovely for you if you've got, a group of friends that you've not seen in a while, or folks that you, whatever your community looks like. That could be online, that could be in face-to-face. But it'd be great to just sort of like spread the love around and for you to like share your admiration of those that you care about. Now, there is some pressure that's happening with this full moon. So the sun is at 5 degrees of Aquarius, the moon is at 5 degrees of Leo, and they're forming pressure, a square, with Jupiter, in Taurus. And so that's at 6 degrees. So it's not exact, but it's close enough. In Tarot, it's a 555 action we're talking about here. Imagine the sun as the 5 of swords. Imagine the moon as the 5 of wands. And imagine Jupiter as the 5 of pentacles. I don't know that much about numerology. What I do know is that lots of 5s mean change. And that's a nice thing to hold to be true at this time, isn't it, Libra Rising? Things have got to change. We're wanting them to change. We can hopefully be fairly convinced that they will change. We want the best for everyone. We want love and warmth and hope and safety for everyone. These aren't easy cards. The 5s don't tend to be. The 5 of Cups is pretty harrowing too. Change is difficult. Maybe there's something in here about the evolution of your 11th house, the evolution of your community. There might be some relationships or some, social groups that you don't really roll with anymore. There was perhaps a certain version of yourself that you needed to present in order for that to work. Or, from my experience sometimes too, the quiet waiting amidst the group for an investment from someone else, an interest in how you're doing, or a sort of realness. You can wait and wait and wait in certain group dynamics, and it'll never happen. Some group dynamics are based in artifice, are based in something less resonant, but it kind of feels like that you're really looking for that resonance, Libra Rising. The dragon's tail is in your first house all of this year, so there is a shedding of the self, isn't there? It kind of feels like a beautiful evolution for you as far as the truth of your nature, the truth of your contribution, and you'll probably find that the more you're honest with yourself, the more that the right people will come to you. Let the right one in, like that vampire movie. Where is Taurus for you? It's the 8th house. Collaborations, of grief as well. Jupiter there sometimes can tend to overdo it. So we're looking at this card in your 8th at present. Combat. Both combat. One's a little harsher than the other. There's some really sort of direct lines of truth used as a weapon here. This is more strategic. This is more like practice, I would say. Maybe you're working on yourself, you're working on your steers, you're working on your ability to be honest, because that can be something else as well, Libra Rising. Sometimes we're so used to like zipping it, not saying or not expressing our truer essence, to be amiable, to be sort of, to have everyone get along. We won't say what we really think. We won't say that that actually hurt me, because we'd much prefer things to be harmonic, right? Much prefer things to be imbalanced. But maybe this sort of like test of the 5 of Wands, this practice, this conditioning is for you to be able to be true, mask off in the public forum, be yourself. People love you for exactly who it is that you are. You don't have to fake it. I've had a really interesting life. I've done all sorts of different things for money, and I've rolled with all sorts of different circles, and I've called a lot of people my friends and colleagues, and there was a commonality in a specific area. I used to be, done lots of things. I used to be a performer on stage quite a lot, and in a mix with my other girlfriends that were on stage and performing, expressing themselves, there was a commonality in all of those personalities that I really felt so tenderly, was that everyone was just waiting to take their mask off. And real offers of connection, real offers of kindness were met with such immense gratitude from all of these people. There's a public-facing self, and there's an expectation on that public-facing self often, isn't there? You present and project an image if you're working in the public environment. the other side of that coin, so lovely and so important to water and tend to as well. Mask off, Libra rising. I feel it. And this pressure from Jupiter, this sort of maybe compulsion to overdo it, might be, there's something about in your hunger, your desire to find the right people, to work with, or to find the right people to create community with. Jupiter can sometimes overdo it. So maybe at this full moon, stand underneath it, feel the power of the lion, be expressive, tell those that you admire that you do, as far as then incorporating their energy into yours as a collaboration. Sit with it for a moment. The day after this full moon, Uranus will station direct on the 27th. There's also a square between Mercury and Chiron too. So 7th house of relationships and 4th house of home, roots, stability, privacy. There's such activity in that private area for you at the moment, Libra rising, that I'd really encourage you to hang on to that. I'd encourage you to sort of stick with that bravery of construction. You're building this safe, sacred space for yourself. I'll say it again, there's an echo here of let the right one in. Not everyone gets a set of spare keys. And maybe there's pain points in your relationships, pain points in the way that you do relate to people, this sort of longing to be your truest, freest self, and then perhaps having to edit. Chiron's here, and I said in the last horoscope, but we've got a good 6 months of power to focus in on that part of your life, Libra rising. We're going to heal. This full moon in Leo is, I don't know, I see you I don't know what you get down in with the full moon. Have you ever stood naked beneath the full moon? If not to upset the neighbors, but it's such a beautiful feeling of being wrapped in light, in that blue light. It's very different to the sun. The sun's really warming and really sort of it slows you down. The moon, it feels like silver sometimes. And it's very flattering as well. I think I might leave the astrology there. I think, Libra, let's get you some tarot and see what the intuitive cards say. We can touch on Pluto in Aquarius on the 21st. Hopefully I'll have these horoscopes out in time for that moment. But I'm sure that we'll all be writing to each other and texting each other going, wow, Pluto in Aquarius. We'll wait to see what that looks like for us. We're sort of preparing for a generational shift. We're preparing for a new way of living, a new way of being. Power to the humanitarian spirit. So we'll see what happens there. And I will remind you that as pressurized, perhaps, as this full moon might feel, I am looking at Mars and Mercury in square with Chiron in your 7th house. That sort of push and pull, that friction between your intimate relationships and what it is that you're building for yourself, that's going to come to resolution. Mars will actually conjoin Chiron later this year. So, that's all I have to say about that. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. You're very lovable. And lots of people know it. Oh, that's quite a few. Yeah, I can take it. I can take it. Isn't that funny? The 5 that was missing has shown up. The 5 of Cups. In this version of the tarot, it says the word disappointment up the top. And when I think of the 5 of Cups, I always think about that importance to take the moment to grieve. It's essential. We wear our black, we put it on, and we're very still. And we allow the body to do its work. We allow ourselves that grief. It's messy. It's also a big change, isn't it? The 5 of Cups isn't rushing anything. There's 2 cups that are still full, still hopeful, still beautiful. There'll be time for them. Sometimes we need to say goodbye. with grace, and with patience. However, the Ace of Cups is a direct offer from our galaxy, a great beeline from heart to heart, a handover, an option. Option's the wrong word. It's an offering. And any person worth their salt knows to accept an offer with grace and with love. The swords can rip us apart. Thoughts, repetitive, can really tear us down. This feels so much like anxiety. The Ten of Swords is such a tragedy. But what I always love to remember about the Ten of Swords is that the sun is actually rising in the background of this card. A new day. And there she is. Bright, bold, confident, free, freshly washed hair. Sure, it needs a cut. We'll get there. First things first. Wash your hair, put on your mascara, step outside, and get to work. Magic is real, Libra Rising. I know that you know that, but it's probably important for me to tell you it's really real. And there's nothing that can compare to that feeling. You can't invent that feeling either. You have it or you don't. Some people want to believe that they do. Some people really want to believe that they do. It's fascinating to me when coming into relationship with folks, in hindsight, perhaps in that moment of grief, that moment of the Five of Cups, it's always a beautiful thing to remind yourself or to ask yourself about your intuitive feelings about that connection from the very beginning. That isn't to say you shouldn't go through with it, but it's another emphasis on trusting your guides, trusting your magic, trusting that feeling. You meet someone, you feel it indescribably run through you. Go for it. In time. Everything in its time and place, honey. Thanks for being here, Libra Rising. I love you lots. You can subscribe to my channel if you have the money. You can head to buymeacoffee.com/UmaRuby and you can subscribe for $10 a month. You can also throw some money in the tip jar if you've got it handy. I can read your birth chart if you'd like. They look like this. I'll draw you one up. You can head to umaruby.com and make your booking. If you're still here with me, Libra Rising, put a line in the comments. Let's find our pride together. Much love, babe. Take it easy. Hello, Aquarius Rising. Happy Leo full moon. This is happening on January the 26th at 4:54 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So it's going to be just before sunrise, just at moon set. You don't have to get up early, or maybe you might have stayed up all night. I don't know. But the evening of the 25th will be just fine to enjoy the brightness of this full moon and to stand beneath it and to kiss goodbye everything that has done its time. So when looking at your birth chart, Aquarius Rising, Leo rules the 7th house of the other, our loves, our relationships, the ones that we hold nearest and dearest, people that have an active presence in our lives. And a full moon is a great time of culmination and celebration. If things have been going so beautifully for you in that environment, I would highly recommend that you jump on the blower and you let them all know just how much you love them. If you can spend as much time with those that you care about at this full moon, I would highly recommend that. It'd be a great thing to do. If you need to say some goodbyes as well, the full moon in Leo is perfect for that. What I can see on your birth chart, Aquarius Rising, is that the sun at 5 degrees of Aquarius, the moon at 5 degrees of Leo, is forming a very pressurized moment with Jupiter in Taurus, in your 4th house of your home, your roots, your ancestry, your privacy. And so if there's a square from Jupiter, there tends to be a sort of like overexertion, or it's like too much, or too much is never enough kind of feeling. So looking at this astrology, I can see definitely some enthusiasm. I can also see some potentially rash decisions that might be made here as well. Now, there might be plans to like move in with someone. That could be something that's happening. And the full moon is asking you to sort of like appreciate the relationship for what it is in this moment. There could be some sort of argumentative, sort of combative tendencies. You might be pulled to sort of say your piece once and for all too. So just keep that in mind as we move with this. The day after this full moon in Leo, on the 27th of January, Uranus will station direct. So that means that at that moment, on the 27th, all of the planets in our galaxy are in their forward motion. So it's going to feel like a big crescendo or a wave of activity. Uranus is in your fourth house of your home, your roots, your neighborhood, your privacy. Uranus, we know, flips the script, tips over the table, rebels. So this is the story that we're constructing for you, Aquarius Rising, is this sort of revolution of a safe space. If you're thinking about moving, or if you're thinking about sort of changing up where it is that you do call home, I think that Uranus on the 27th will bring some great clues as to where you might want to go. Let's just sort of sit with this idea of this pressure and this sort of overexertion from Jupiter on the full moon. Everything will right itself, I'm sure it will, but that's just something to keep in mind as we kind of, enjoy like the celebration at a full moon. I love them. I'm sure that you love a full moon. And especially a full moon in Leo. It's a great excuse for a cuddle puddle. But let's also have a little speak about Pluto. So the sun entered Aquarius on the 20th in the afternoon. It was conjunct Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees. The day after, Pluto on the 21st of January entered Aquarius. So it's almost as if the sun and Pluto were sort of shifting together, leaving your 12th house of your hidden work, your behind the scenes ruminations, your private spiritual chambers, into the first house of yourself, your soul's rising intention. We're preparing ourselves, Aquarius Rising, for an immaculately powerful 20 years. Things are going to feel brand new for you. I really fully believe that to be true. Can't say for sure how that will manifest, but there's something here that's really bold and really, really vibrant. We know that we've got to wait until 2025 to really kind of settle into Pluto in Aquarius. But this year, from the 21st of January until September the 2nd of this year, we'll be feeling the prelude. Maybe it's a good way to think about it. The tarot card for 5 degrees of Leo is the Five of Wands. And so this is why maybe I was talking about this sort of combative conversation that might be occurring. If you look at the triptych, the sun is at the Five of Swords, the moon is at the Five of Wands, and Jupiter, that potential to exaggerate or overexert, is at the Five of Pentacles. In numerology, I don't know that much about it, but I do know that multiple fives mean change. So there's a real strong feeling of change in the air for you, Aquarius Rising. But you can see by these images, it's never easy, is it? This is what we're speaking to with your fourth house, this feeling of being shut out or disallowed, not invited anymore. A feeling of sort of like everyone turning their back on you. I hope that's not how you're feeling. If it is, you can trust that tarot is sort of in sync with you and we can work through this. The moon has, these two here are very combative, aren't they? But in different ways. The Five of Swords is a battle of the mind. There's a sort of sparring match here with the truth, and there's barbs shot. The Five of Wands is sort of more conditioning. It's more like practice. You're sort of gearing yourself up, amping yourself up. So I wonder how you can relate these three images to your sense of belonging at home and in your relationships, and what vast metamorphosis Pluto is bringing to the table, in which you're going to move through this world from now on as a very changed, very beautiful, true, honest person that is probably a lot more in relationship or has more in common with your essence than you have for a long time. That we can look forward to, Aquarius Rising. I hope that you don't feel ostracized, because that's a terrible feeling, and I can understand how that can have your sort of backup, and how defense mechanisms can start to sort of come into play when we're feeling ostracized. We can become sort of antagonistic, or we can become defensive when we feel that we're not invited anymore. So yeah, I hope that's not how you're feeling, because you are invited as a human citizen. I welcome you. My star, my extraterrestrial that you are, sent from a different planet. Golly. Let's get you some intuitive tarot, Aquarius Rising. Let's have some fun with this. The following days after this full moon, there is a lot of conversation between Mercury and Chiron, and Mars and Mercury. There's a whole lot of stuff happening here. This is all in the internal world, though. So if you think about it, Pluto has just left your 12th house, your unconscious world, your spiritual essence, and Mars and Mercury are in there now. That kind of feels like, as I said, bravery, but it feels like strategy too. There's something strategic that's going on here that in time is going to benefit and aid that rebellion or that revolution in your 4th house, your home, your roots, your access to your ancestry. I like it. I like it. Mars is in a funny conversation right now with Chiron, that's sort of unconscious wounding, but they're going to meet up there again. They're going to conjoin and come together. And so we'll have a chat about that at another time. But the house of the goddess is in ultra full, hyper-realistic focus right now. See? Depending on where you identify on the broad, vast, beautiful, diverse spectrum of gender, these will probably hit in a different way. I tend to believe that there is something intrinsically Empress in all of us. We have the capacity to embody and evoke the spirit of the Empress, of our beautiful planet Venus that guides our eye and feeling and touch towards art and pleasure and beauty and forgiveness. Not that you need forgiving, Aquarius Rising, and not to use this sort of laborious language of repentance or anything like that. But there might be something in you from a while ago. There might be a feeling of abandonment that's sort of showing its head again. There might be feelings around your sense of worth at this time which are stinging. And so this is where the Empress comes into it. She forgives you for thinking that way about yourself, even though it's not true, because you're very lovable and you're very, very worthy of connection and of someone to be kind to you, and for your kindness to be received in a way that honors it, with gratitude, and with a commitment to provide that back as well. There's something empowering about Venus and about the Empress. There's something really, really powerful, separate to the power of the Emperor, I might say. There's something in the yielding nature of the Empress that provides a lot of opportunity for growth. That's an incredible word for the Empress. I wonder who you can think about in your life that makes you feel nurtured, that provides that sense to you. And it doesn't matter who it is, but think about what that feels like and think about why you enjoy that relationship. And also perhaps think about how you can offer that relationship some wealth as well. In what ways does this person that you're thinking about that is incredibly kind and attentive and listens and understands what you're going through and understands that your belly needs to be full and, will pick you up and hug you when you're feeling vulnerable, maybe with not so many words, they make you feel accepted and they make you feel seen and witnessed and loved. Oftentimes just with like little actions that make us feel this way. Everyone has the right to a sense of security, and so do you. And that security is on the way. It's a balancing act. You're juggling a lot at the moment, Aquarius Rising. I respect that. I really understand that. Keeping a lot of plates spinning, a lot of things up in the air, and there's a lot of great potential moving forward. There's a lot of big decisions that are coming your way. This is exciting. To revolutionize the home base. Wow. Got choices to make. You've also got a sort of stamina to maintain. And maybe there's something in here about sort of allowing some time for sweetness and for pleasure and for kind of the word languid keeps on coming to me as I'm thinking about this Aquarius rising. Sometimes you just want to sort of just, if you get up and spend the entire day naked and all you've done is like wash your hair and eaten breakfast, lunch and dinner, and you've just been listening to music all day, brushing your hair, like take it slow. The Empress loves to take it slow. The Empress savors every mouthful. So yeah, this feeling of like combativeness, maybe in the 7th house, maybe at home, is witnessed, it's seen, it's heard, it's understood. This burgeoning revolution of those spaces is also witnessed and is being heard and supported. This transformation of self that is imminent and on the way, if not precisely in 2024, we've got 20 years to talk about this and chat about where your rising placement is. If you've got any other planets in Aquarius too that might be being triggered by Pluto's ingress, grand journey through the sign, power to the people, power to the human condition. You're like a maestro of that. You're not twirling the baton, you're like conducting the orchestra. Not to downplay twirling the baton, it's a very valuable skill. But you see all of that sort of responsibility and this feeling of like great revolutionary shift and change. The Empress is like, babe, come back to bed. So do it. Do it. You can do both. I love you, Aquarius Rising. If you're still here with me, put a lion in the comments. That would be stunning. You can support my work over at buymeacoffee.com. So if you'd like to subscribe to my horoscopes, you can do that. You can also throw some money in the tip jar over there at buymeacoffee.com/UmaRuby. It's not essential. I understand money is tight, but if you do have the resources, I would be very grateful. And if you'd like me to read your birth chart finally, if I've not read it for you before, they look like that, head to my website, umaruby.com, and we can make an appointment. If I have read for you and you'd like some more, you can pick a truth, a love, a growth, a magic, or a femme reading over at the Back for More tab in the bookings page. I love you, Aquarius Rising, heaps. And I'll be back with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to discuss the new moon in Aquarius, happening on the 10th of February, Chinese Lunar New Year, all about you. Let's make some wishes together. Let's use this astrology and let's build a beautiful self out of the parts that are the boldest, the brightest, and the truest. Can't wait. See you then. Hello, Gemini Rising. Happy Leo full moon. It's happening on January the 26th at 4:54 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So just before moonset, right before sunrise. If you're up that early, awesome. But if not, it's okay. The 25th of January, the night before, will be perfect viewing of the moon, and also the night of the 26th as well. But let's really embody the lion, shall we? Let's really kind of find our feet, find our footing in the sort of cosmic personality of our beautiful Leo friends. We love their drama. We love their brightness. We love the light that emanates from them as they stand in their spotlight. Leo is the sign that loves to move with the pack too. Got to remember the lion and the pride of lions. A solo lion, not so happy. So when I think about Leo, I do think about someone who is really kind of like running on all cylinders for the betterment and for the for their love of the other. They want to sort of lead by example, is how I feel about Leo. For you on your birth chart, Gemini Rising, Leo rules the third house, which is the house of the goddess. It's the house of our village, of our local environment, where we enact private rituals of worship and of exaltation and celebration. It's where we read our tarot. It's where we learn about the mysteries of life through spoken word, through sharing of lessons with voice. The voice has a lot to do with the third house as well. So when there's a full moon there, the sun over in Aquarius shining its light down on the moon in Leo, it's kind of like spotlight on the goddess. So work with that beautiful feeling of celebration. It kind of feels like, hopefully for you too. Now we've just entered Aquarius season, speaking of, and pretty much in tandem, shy of a couple of hours, the sun entered Aquarius just after it conjoined with Pluto in Capricorn, and then Pluto came over and joined the sun in Aquarius. So that is to say, this is Pluto in Aquarius. We know that Pluto's going to be back in Capricorn come September, and that next year, 2025, is when Pluto in Aquarius is really like, okay, this is it. However, let's talk about what that might mean, and let's think about your sense of philosophy, your sense of grand religious spiritual thought. Think about what you're publishing, what you're putting out there in terms of those topics, and think about a sort of like disintegration perhaps of old structures of, potential sort of like hierarchy. Possibly there's bound to be some incredibly beautiful, workable healing, insofar as if there's any latent sort of trauma around religion that you might have. There might have been experiences you've had with the organized structures of these topics where you've felt taken advantage of. And that isn't to say it's, not the top three. There's a lot of kind of strange goings on in new age world too, where that's all being revealed to us right now, isn't it? Even more so than it already has been. But just this wave of sort of like splashy documentation of all of these different guru type personalities that sort of divided, conquered, and dominated through history, all while purporting sort of love and light and togetherness and healing. There's been such an influx of like expose around those topics. I'm got my eye on Pisces and Neptune because of that. However, those topics we can relate to your ninth house too. It's a fabulous feeling to be, full of hope and full of wonder, and to really honestly, truly wish to contribute to the healing practices of others. That's why I kind of read tarot and read astrology, because I understand the enormous benefit that it's had in my life. And if I can share what I know about the goings on, the inner workings of these systems, then the better. Then I feel like I'm contributing. Some folks have a sticky time, a tricky time with that, because there has been moments of real vulnerability, and they've really wanted to sort of give over their power to a higher one. But I think as we sort of move around together, we realize that We hold the power. We are the power. Pluto in Aquarius is power to the people. So when religion is used to draw barriers or borders, when the gauntlet is thrown and the faith idea is being used to divide and separate, I don't think Pluto in Aquarius will be having much more of that. That's what I feel anyway. And maybe there's something in your third house of the goddess, your Leo house, your sort of private ritual. If you engage in magical practice, a full moon in Leo would be ultimate time to do so. If there's been a lot of praying for peace that you've been doing, the full moon in Leo would be a great time to continue that work, to sort of investigate and have a think about different ways that people work with the energy on this planet and people do enact their ritual spell work. Say it, it is so. That's one philosophy. With respect and with reverence for the well-being of everyone around you. That's the truth. Now, there is a square happening at this full moon too. So the sun at 5 degrees in Aquarius, the moon at 5 degrees in Leo, they are both forming square pressure with Jupiter in Taurus. And whenever there's a square with Jupiter, there can be a sort of maybe like a temptation to overdo it or to overexert, to overdo it's probably a good way to say it. For you, Gemini Rising, Taurus is the 12th house. So this is internal, unconscious spirituality. Isn't that a fascinating conversation to be having? I wonder if there's something around this that we can sort of start to pass out and feel out. Let's do it with tarot. So the sun is the 5 of swords. The moon is the 5 of wands. Jupiter is the 5 of pentacles. Now, in numerology, 555 means change, right? So how can we relate this story to the one that we're weaving around structures of religion, around guru worship, around religious abuse, your private healing practice that you're developing and that you're taking your autonomy back with, and your unconscious leanings, your access to those secretive hidden chambers. It's not a word of caution by any means, but it does feel quite combative, doesn't it? I think if we look at this image and consider the 12th house, I see folks that are cast out from organized religion. I see folks that are really suffering and are ostracized, that have been shunned. I could imagine those pentacles as the window of a church. That's what I see anyway. And these two folks in the front here are not welcome in this holy space. The warmth is emanating from behind that stained glass, but not for these two. They've got no shoes, they've got rags for clothes. That's a sad, sad, sad story. That feeling of rejection, of being shut out, of not belonging. To sow that somewhere into your 12th house is tender work. It's tender work to go back to that thought form, or that kind of, to embody that feeling. If you've had lived experience of being shut out or not being welcome, perhaps if you've got a line to, perhaps that was the story of your ancestors, perhaps that's the story of folks in your family. There's many different ways to identify with this card in the 12th house. I won't speak to all of them because I'm not an expert in them. It's fascinating work to do in the 12th. Potentially there could be some stuff about, let's get Shirley MacLaine, your past lives, if that's something that you believed in. The way that I read astrology is really focused on the here and now. I really love to plant my feet in the ground and to be here on this planet at this time for the purpose that is being offered me. So I see this as a sort of invitation with your magical practice, with your third house goddess worship, which is here in the 5 of Wands. This is training, this card. magical training. When this arises, this feeling of like dissociation from a sense of welcome, from being told that folks like you, not around here, mate, you must leave, all of those horrible feelings, you're not welcome here. This is when our magical practice really comes into play. You can see these folks here are practicing, they're sparring, they're in sort of preparation for combat, maybe. This one is much more sharp and much more cutting. There's a choice in this card to step away from the barbs of truth, the weaponized ideas. This is your ninth house. This is where we start to speak about that sort of religious trauma. I don't wish to bring anything up that doesn't need to be brought up, Aquarius Rising, and if this isn't really sort of sitting with you, I respect that. If you'd prefer not to go there, I will say that from my experience, there is so much power to be reclaimed from stepping back into a space of believing in something and having faith in something. It's a word that is so weaponized. That area of life, to have faith, to be a faith-based person, can be really weaponized. And it can be used as a line drawn in the sand to divide and separate and to say, not your kind, or on condition, you need to repent, we need to change you in order for you to be welcome here. I don't believe that, Gemini Rising. I don't believe that for you. I believe that your faith is shining bright. I believe that what you believe in is the truth. And I believe in the ways in which you are going about your life in order to share what you know, to provide some healing in a true sense that's got nothing to do with manipulation, nothing to do with power, nothing to do with control. It's got more to do with empowerment for the self, for the person that you're speaking to or working with, for providing the example of your life and what worked for you, offering it up as an option. As a culture, as a consciousness, we're stepping away from guru worship. I really hope that we are, because it's done so much damage and it continues to do so. And there's like you can memorize the terminology. If you don't believe it, then it's obvious. And this is where the intuition comes into play too. You'll know if you believe what someone's serving up, and you can trust that they'll know if you're being authentic or not too. But you're not going to be shut out anymore, babe. You are welcome here. You are invited to have faith. Let's get you some intuitive tarot too. Can you feel it? It's pretty powerful. I wonder what will happen. And I wonder how prepared we'll be for the changes. Take every day as it comes. Meditate, meditate, meditate. There's that sun again. We got that last time, didn't we? The brightness of you, Gemini Rising. It's probably important for me at this time to say as well, there's some ways of understanding astrology, which sort of like, if you were born in a certain season, like I thought that I was a Virgo, but you're telling me I'm a Scorpio. We are everything. And the sun sign is a really vital part of the chart too. You can be a Virgo sun and a Scorpio rising in tandem at the same time. When looking at your astrology and looking at your birth chart, thinking about it, think about the sun as representative of the most obvious parts about you, the brightest parts about you, the parts where you can be put to best use, where you can shine. You know, all of those sorts of words, you can sort of sew them into your sun sign. And it seems that you're being sort of pulled there at the moment. It seems that this metamorphosis is allowing you to come back to a space where you were your truest self, where you were acting on your natural impulse, where you were creating magic in a way that wasn't criticized or wasn't sort of tried to be trained out of you. Feels really powerful. You know, oftentimes there's sort of like, you know, breakthroughs, and I'm going to change, do the work. You know, I'm not that person anymore. In fact, you are that person. You sort of come back to it, but it's a matter of coming back to that side of you, or that version of you, with a bit of sweetness and kindness. Progress goes in a circle, doesn't go in a straight line. And I like to think that this sun, your sun on your birth chart, the brightest part of you, is emblematic of the way that you saw the world when you were very young, acting on sheer impulse, having no one tell you that that needs to be sort of stopped or edited out. That's an experience of coming back to yourself, isn't it? It does feel like everyone's getting quite prepared, aren't they? Tensing up, clamping down, convincing themselves. Every good warrior, if you can't understand my accent, deserves a moment to rest, to get strong again. So as you embark forward, if you sort of move forward on this pathway, Gemini Rising, absolutely, with all of your diligent conditioning and strength testing and training, make sure that there's room in there to take stock from time to time, because you're really being required to glow, to shine. At this full moon in Leo, the sun is encouraging you to have a bit of confidence about that part of your chart, or have a bit of confidence about the brightness of you. There you go. That's your reading, babe. I love you. If you're still here with me, put a lion in the comments, please, in honor of our lovely Leo the Lion. You can subscribe to my channel monetarily at buymeacoffee.com/UmaRuby. You can subscribe for 10 Australian dollars a month, or put some money in the tip jar, or both. If you'd like me to draw up your birth chart and read it to you, you can make an appointment with me on my website at umaruby.com, and I'll be with you in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about the Aquarius new moon, which kind of feels like it's packing a big punch. Pluto is power. Aquarius is the people. Let's bring about a rebirth in the global collective sense of humanity. That would be marvelous. Let's do it together, shall we? Bye.